Well, Shabbat Shalom. I just want to welcome everyone to the Sabbath Day conference call. This is Barbara, and I'm serving as your host today. And today we're having a group discussion. We have a wonderful fellowship group here every Sabbath and New Moon Day. And today we're going to be discussing a video that we did in 2020. It's been 2.5 years ago. Maybe you've already watched it on the YouTube channel. But I thought today we could go through point by point. And for those that we can have discussion or objections or questions, just follow along. And I thought it would be fun for everyone to kind of get in on our discussion group. Well, this video is 12 points that prove Saturday is not the Sabbath. Well, and it is part 1. Lunar-solar Sabbath or Saturday Sabbath. Which one is it? One is a calendar in the heavens by the phases of the moon. Another is on a Roman, papal, Gregorian calendar. So which day is the true Sabbath? If Saturday is a Sabbath, or if Saturday is every 7th day in an unbroken cycle, then the evidence below should not be available, much less undeniably and provably true. Here we go with the evidence, and we're going to go through the first 6 points today if we have time. And would someone like to read the first 6 points that we are going to cover today?
I'll read it for you, Barbie.
Okay, thank you.
So number 1, the Battle of Jericho was a 7-day event. 2, scholars have generally agreed that the only dates that the crucifixion could have taken place was AD 30, 31, or 33. Number 3, Saturday is a day of the pagan papal calendar, not the Hebrew calendar. Number 4, Exodus 12, 16, and 19 reveal that the Sabbaths fell on the 15th of the month for 3 consecutive months. Number 5, the new moon is still, and the Sabbath originally was dependent on the lunar cycle. This is from the Universal Jewish Encyclopedia, page 410. No quote can be clearer than this. And number 6, in order to have a lunar Sabbath, you must have a lunar week.
And we'll do the next, in the next one, we'll go through part 7 through 12, or you can go ahead and watch that. That is part 2, the other video. So number 1, as CC read them all, we're going to go through each one a little bit. If you have a question or objection or comment, just join in, everybody. Number 1, the Battle of Jericho was a 7-day event. Here's one of the points. And I'll just ask someone to read. Or volunteer, someone.
Oh, Barb, is my mic working?
Yes, I'm hearing you.
Oh, great. Okay. I've got a different microphone situation this morning. Okay, the Battle of Jericho. Every able-bodied Israelite male took with him every weapon at his disposal. The priests carried with them the sacred Ark of the Covenant. In this battle siege, Israel is on the offensive, the aggressors. Read the account in Joshua 6. Only Joshua knew it would be a 7-day affair. The men were told they would attack when Joshua gave the signal. These soldiers were marching around Jericho for 7 days in attack mode, on a full tilt adrenaline rush, not knowing for sure when the signal would come. Which day was the Sabbath? Did Yahweh ever send Israel into battle on the Sabbath?
Well, maybe you've asked that question. I know some of us might have asked that when we were in Sabbath school class. Did this happen on a Sabbath? Well, there is a text in the book. Well, we'll just wait, and I'll read this part. If the Sabbath is every seventh day in an unbroken cycle since creation, then one of the days Israel marched around Jericho had to have been a weekly Sabbath. But the book of Joshua, which we will use in this instance, tells us about it was the second month on the first day of the month that Jehovah said to Joshua, "Rise up. Behold, I've given Jericho into thy hand with all the people thereof, and all your fighting men shall go around the city once each day. Thus shall ye do for 6 days. And on the seventh day they went around the city 7 times, and the priests blew the trumpets." That's Joshua 88:14 and 17. But this book is an extra book, a part of the Apocrypha, but we can use it as a history book today. It said that it happened on the first day of the month. So that would, let me see what's the next screen. Okay, here we go. It would show that they marched on the first day of the month. That's New Moon Day. So they would go one time on New Moon Day, day 1, the first day of the week, the second day of the week, the third, the fourth, the fifth, the sixth, and 7 times on the 7th day of the week. So they did not, I always say that wrong. 7 times on the 6th day of a work week. There's 7 days total when you count New Moon Day. So they did not march on a Sabbath. So I'm going to pause right here for you guys to comment or ask questions.
This is Pete. Now I just reinforce what you were just saying. Is looking at this calendar here, the chart. The first day of the week, which is labeled 2, is actually the first day of the work week, and it would go up to the 6th, which has 7 there. And that's the day they tax. So that would be their 7th day, but it's the 6th day of the work week. I'm just reinforcing what you said.
This is Sally.
Okay.
I haven't done an exhaustive study on this, but at one point I was looking at what happened on what days of the month. And something that was falling out to me is frequently the first day of the month. A lot of times Endeavor starting up. And I
can barely hear her.
This would fit in this case.
Brother Pete, can you turn your mic up? I'm afraid it went down a little too low now. And we want to hear Sally.
Sorry. Can you hear me now?
That's good.
Do you hear me?
Yeah, really great. Yeah, start over. Wonderful. And I should have told Brother Pete.
Okay.
Hard to get it adjusted.
I haven't fully done this study, but a while back I was looking at what kinds of activities happened on what days of the month. And on the first day of the month, I noticed a lot of times new things were started, trips or building projects, and in this case, this battle started. So that's just a little tidbit for you.
I love that. Thank you, Sally. Yeah, I know when you read about the new moon, or in the Bible it would say month for the word moon when it first started out. Yeah, they went on a journey, or Noah took off the roof from the ark, and many new things started and began on New Moon Day. Anybody else have a comment about the 7 times they marched around Jericho, but it was not on a Sabbath?
I do. It's me, Eric, again. So just to be clear, because when I read this before, and this actually was the scripture a couple weeks ago that brought me into the life of understanding it. I didn't know that they were marching on the new moon. I thought that they ended on the Sabbath, but it makes sense that since we can't work on the Sabbath, they ended on day 6, correct?
Right. Well, thank you, Erica, because that to me, too, I always thought that why did they do this on a Sabbath, because we were taught the seventh day was always a Sabbath, and, of course, the seventh day is the Sabbath on the Father's calendar, but New Moon Day is day 1, and so they did not go into battle aggressively on a Sabbath day.
Okay, so that makes sense.
Let's see. Anne, are you coming on? Okay, we'll go forward now. I think that covered point 1. Now point 2. We'll move right along. I mean, we can pause. We don't only have to go through 6 points. We can just go through 1 and 2. It's fine. Number 2 point. Scholars have generally agreed that the only dates that the crucifixion could have taken place was AD 30, 31, or 33. So let's look at that. History, the reason for these years is that there are other historical events that took place at known dates that must be taken into consideration and placed in a timeline of the events in the New Testament. And we have the moon phases. Passover was a lunar event. If you kept feast days, you watch for when the new moon is to count to day 14 for Passover. The moon's phases are not a secret, and the lunar cycle can be determined in either the past or future with a great deal of accuracy. Any moon phase calculator will tell you that. Okay, and someone can read this, whoever would like to.
Yes, I'll pick up. Passover would have been on the pagan Wednesday in 27 AD. It would have been on the pagan Monday in 28 AD. On a pagan Sunday in 29 AD. On a pagan Thursday in 30 AD, on the pagan, Tuesday in 31 AD, on the pagan Sunday in 32 AD, and on the pagan Thursday in 33 AD.
Okay, you might as well read this page, and then maybe we can stop for a second.
Yes, what this proves is that there was no Friday, Saturday, Sunday weekend Passovers on any of the dates between 27 and 33 AD, covering all the suspected years of the crucifixion, or the potential years for the crucifixion. The day after Passover in the year of the crucifixion was most certainly the weekly Sabbath. See Mark 15:42, Luke 23:54 through 56, and John 19:31, which means that if Saturday is a Sabbath, Friday would have been Passover. This proves that the pagan planetary week was not employed by Israel in the 1st century, and that Saturday is not the Sabbath of Israel. They observed the lunar-solar calendar established at creation, a fact corroborated by historians and proved in Scripture.
And over here is a calendar. It shows New Moon Day is day 1. And Passover, as you know, is always the 14th day, preparation day, and Sabbath is the 15th. Well, we'll go forward. There's some more about this. Oh, wait. That's number 3. Let's just go back. So, all right, well, on all those years between 27 and 33 AD, there is no Friday, Saturday, and Sunday Passover. So the people that try to put it on a Gregorian calendar, this does not work. So any comments, anybody, or questions, or objections?
I have a question, and that is, this is using our current week and then backing up consecutives to find out where they line up. And that's how this number one statement comes about. Isn't that the case?
Yeah, this is if you were going to measure with a Gregorian calendar all the way back, there is no Passover on a Friday. So I guess that question is good, and part 3 explains why. If you're new to the lunar calendar, just be patient. There's an explanation about this.
Okay,
Number 3, proof. Well, Brother Pete, I know you're not new to the lunar calendar, but we'll go forward. Saturday is a day of the pagan papal calendar, and it's not even on a Hebrew calendar. Okay, do we have anybody who would like to read this page? And we're going to start talking about the Julian, the Roman calendar.
I'll continue.
I can read.
If Saturday is a weekly Sabbath, then how come there is no Saturday on the Roman calendar in the first century? In the first century, Rome had an 8-day market calendar week, not a 7-day week. Saturday did not appear on the official Roman calendar until 321 A.D. So Saturday was far from well established as a day on the Roman, much less Hebrew, calendars in the New Testament times.
No such day. Okay, and I heard a lady speak up. Let's see, here's a copy of the actual first century Roman calendar, and they had an 8-day week through the letters A through H, a letter for each day of this week. And will this lady read the bottom paragraph? I'm not sure if it was CC or who it was.
It was me, Victoria. In the first century, Rome observed an 8-day calendar week. Please note that in the first century, the pagan months of January and April 29 days instead of 31 and 30 days, respectively, that they consist of now the 6th and the 8th months, what we know as June and August, as well as September, November, and December, also have 29 days rather than 30, 31, 30, 30, and 31 days as they have now.
Okay, a little bit of a tongue twister there. Go ahead, you could read this one. This will be easier.
I'm on my phone too, so it's kind of small. I have to scroll. This is a sketch of the pagan planetary week. It's around 100 BC. Saturn's day, Sunday, Moon's day, Mars' day, Mercury's day, Jupiter's day, and Venus' day. To assume that Israel observed the pagan 7-day planetary week in the first century when Rome themselves did not is sheer lunacy. Rome did not officially adopt the 7-day planetary week until AD 321 when Emperor Constantine became a Christian. Until that time, Saturn's day was the first day of the pagan 7-day planetary week, not the 7th.
Oh, so you can't count all the way back to the Crucifixion and find a Friday or a Saturday. This sketch came from a clay calendar tablet picture to the left that Victoria described. And Rome ruled the world in the 1st century BC, thus the Roman numerals. But this is not a Roman calendar. This is the pagan 7-day planetary week as it existed from 800, 600 BC until AD 31 when Constantine venerated the day of the sun. And notice on this calendar that Saturn day, which we know as Saturday, was day 1. So Constantine worshipped Mithra, the Persian version of the sun god, and he did not want the day of the sun taking a back seat to Saturn. So when he venerated the day of the sun, this is way after Yeshua, 300 years A.D., what he did is he bumped Saturday to the end so the Jews would have a 7-day Sabbath, and he put Sunday in the number 1 position. And so that's how this all happened. And here's a little more explanation. Someone would read up here in the yellow. We'll start there and then go to the right.
I'll read.
Okay.
Saturday was not the 7th day of the week anywhere on the earth until AD 321, and then by virtue of Constantine, not the Creator Almighty, so it certainly was not the Sabbath of Israel at any time in Earth's history. Yet this is the day Saturday Sabbath keepers defend as the weekly Sabbath. Continue.
Okay, go over here. So if Israel
had been using 7-day planetary week in the 1st century, where is the evidence to support that theory? Rome certainly wasn't using a planetary week in the 1st century. In the 1st century, the Julian calendar consisted of a repeating 8-day market week. That was later set aside for a 7-day week in AD 321 when Constantine adopted the pagan planetary week.
Okay, I guess we can stop right here and answer some questions. So, what? There was no Saturday and no Friday and no Sunday when Yeshua died? Crucifixion. He didn't die on a Gregorian calendar weekend. He died on Passover on a lunar day, the 14th day of that month. So, anybody have anything to say? Maybe there's somebody new listening to this. Have you got something to help them or to tell them about this, how you found out about it? And also, when I was going over this, I updated this from 2020, and I found, while you're thinking of what you want to say next, I found a June 2022. Notice here what the 7th day of the week is. And this is the way it is a lot in Europe, too, on some of their calendars. What is the 7th day of the week on this Gregorian calendar? It is a Sunday. So, you know, if people are counting that Gregorian calendar and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, they'll be on the wrong day. Whoops, okay, so that's the end of that one, that Saturday did not exist, so it could not be Friday, could not be a crucifixion date. We'll stop there and wait for any questions or comments.
Well, it's hard to argue with history, isn't it?
Yeah, Mrs. M, that's right. It's proven in history.
Uh-huh.
Before 700 BC, all the world had lunar calendars, and all the calendars were 30-day months. So anyways, we have more information about that. But yes, it's hard to argue with history. So with that, we'll go forward, because we are going to cover history if we get through all 6 steps. Here's number 4.
Sorry, and that's
Exodus
the thing
12.
Sorry.
That's fine. I want to hear from you.
Oh, I was just saying, most people don't know the history, and so they just assumed it's been a long, you know, the calendar's been unchanged, so because they don't know the history. So it's important to know the history.
Yes, and we grew up with a Gregorian calendar, and it's only just over 400 years old, and it's named after Pope Gregory the 13th. And we thought it was all the way back to creation. That's the way I was taught. And before that was the Julian calendar, which is a Roman calendar.
Mm-hmm.
So now we've got some more proof in the Bible. Point number 4. Exodus 12, 16, and 19 reveal that the Sabbath fell on the 15th of the month for 3 consecutive months. This is not possible if Saturday, the 7th day, is an unbroken cycle, is the Sabbath. That is never possible to have 15th 3 months in a row on your Gregorian calendar. You can go look at it right now, and you will never find 3 months like that. So here we go. Well, here's some of the proof. Well, Exodus 12 reveals that Israel was released from bondage on Abib 15, the 15th day of the first month. It is not called a Sabbath in Exodus 12, but later Scripture does reveal the nature of this day. Leviticus 23, 4 through 8 shows us that Passover, Abib 14, is preparation day for Abib 15, the Sabbath of unleavened bread. And here is a lunar calendar, if you've not seen one before, showing New Moon Day as day 1. Then you have 6 working days and a Sabbath, which is the 8th day, 6 working days and a Sabbath, the 15th. And you know Passover is the 14th, preparation day, and the 15th is the Sabbath. And Yeshua proves that with the Passover, when the time that he died, he laid in the grave on the Sabbath, didn't he? So this is the first month of the 15th showing. We're going to show the 15th is the Sabbath for 3 months in a row, which is not possible on a Gregorian calendar. Okay, the first month you kill the Passover lamb in the evening. We know that's the 14th, rest, and then the Sabbath day was the 15th, and that's when they had their Exodus, but it was at night. And this chart shows it again, showing the 15th. The 14th was preparation day. The 15th was a Sabbath, and that was the day they exited at night. Okay, I'll have someone read. It can be one of you that haven't read yet or any of you. It's okay. Start up here in Numbers 33.
Deuteronomy 5:15. And remember that you were a slave in the land of Egypt, and that Yahweh your Elohim brought you out from there by a mighty hand and by an outstretched arm. Therefore, Yahweh your Elohim commanded you to keep the Sabbath day. Numbers 33, 3. They departed from Ramesses on the first day, on the first month, on the 15th day of the first month, on the day after the Passover. The children of Israel went out with boldness in the sight of the Egyptians. The Sabbath commandment in Exodus 20 is linked to creation week. The 4th commandment listed in Deuteronomy 5 is linked to the deliverance of Israel. That date was the 15th of Aviv. Aviv, 15th. And it is not only an annual Sabbath, but a weekly Sabbath as well. The 15th is without question a Sabbath, meaning that the 22nd of the first month is also a Sabbath.
Well, thank you, Sally. Any comments about that? 15th. This is going to be the first month marking the 15th as a Sabbath.
Well, Barbie, this is one of the things that brought me to the Lunar Sabbath in the first place, because we all read about Passover being on the 14th and the 15th, if you read it correctly, as Sabbath. But you don't realize that unless you do the math on some of the other passages, that when Sabbath is mentioned in the Bible with the date, it is always, on a specific day. And if that happens more than one time, you need 2 or 3 witnesses to prove, to be your proof. And so you kind of pass over it, pardon the pun, not really realizing that it's telling you right there that this is the Sabbath date, and it always is the Sabbath date. It doesn't change. And that, when I realized that, was one of the things that made me come to realize that Sabbath is always on a specific date, just like everything else is always on a specific date in the Bible. So just a little info.
That was great. Thank you, Cece. I know everyone's going to appreciate that, especially if they're just discovering the Creator Sabbath. And yes, it's on a specific date. It's always the 8th, the 15th, the 22nd, and 29th. And we're showing the 15th is the Sabbath date when they left Egypt. And like Sally read, the 4th commandment, when it was given again in Deuteronomy, reminds them that they were brought out of Egypt. So it's a reminder of what day they were brought out, and it's connected to the Sabbath commandment.
So what I don't understand, Sister Barbie, is how some people think the full moon is the new moon. If, to me, it's so clear that it's full moon is on the 15th.
They were brought out in the full sight of the Egyptians, and I believe they had that great big moon up there to brighten the way. For those of you that have been studying that question, we have several YouTubes about why full moon is not the new moon, and the new moon is building. It builds from the dark to the lighter and lighter, more brightness and more brightness.
Yeah, it clearly says the 15th, not the first day, which they think is the new moon when it's full.
I have 2 questions. The first one is, I've never understood what are the 3 witnesses? Is that just the sun, the moon, and the stars?
You mean in this example, or the 3 witnesses for the calendar?
Oh, for the calendar.
Oh, yeah, it would probably be sun, moon, and stars. That sounds, those are the timepieces.
And the other question I have about like Passover and the first day of Eve. Now, I've heard people say to accurately get the beginning of our month of the year. Is it true that you have to have the sighting of the equinox along with the new moon, or no?
Well, some people do it that way, Erica. I don't look for that equinox. I look for the signs of the moon, the shape of the moon, and also there are ways to check, like Brother Joseph mentioned earlier, to make sure you're exactly, by the degrees, you're exactly on the right month. But there's several ways to check. But yes, some people do that. Yes, some people do check the equinox.
Do you have videos that show biblically how to tell the right way for the first month of the year starting correctly?
Yes, we do. So those are available, and if you send me your email, I'll try to send you a few. But our YouTube channel is Lunar Sabbath. There's, I think, over 160 videos there. But those are good questions, and we'll go to
Sure. And
to
your email, is your email lunar-sabbath-day@yahoo?
Yep, it's pretty simple. lunar-sabbath-day@yahoo.com.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Okay, now, so the first month it shows they left Egypt on the 15th, right, like Sally read. And Exodus 16 is the second place where we can see the 15th of the month. Exodus 16 is the first place where the word Sabbath is used in Scripture. In the first verse, Jehovah is speaking to Moses and Aaron on the 15th day of the second month and gives them what turns out to be a simple math equation. From day 15, add 6 days of manna, that would equal 21. The next day, the 22nd, is a Sabbath. So this is the second month with the 15th being a Sabbath. We've had 1 month with the 15th being a Sabbath, now the second month in a row showing it with the manna. I don't know. Hey, Brother Pete, are you there to kind of explain this a little? I'm just going to hand it over for a minute. Or Sally, or...
Excuse me. Yes, I was out of sorts. I was actually chewing on something across the room.
That's okay. That's okay. I'm sorry. I just surprised you.
Yeah. Israel was to collect a portion of manna from the 16th to the 20th, and a double portion on the 21st because the morrow was a Sabbath. If the 22nd is a Sabbath, so the 15th, as well as the 8th and the 29th, the first day of the month is a new moon, not a Sabbath. And I guess, of course, we're looking at, for those that, and just to reiterate, for those that are not accustomed to this, we're not looking at a Gregorian calendar here. We're looking basically at a lunar-solar calendar, which lists each week of the month. And the first, out here by itself on the left there, is the new moon day. And what we're seeing then is the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7, as we're seeing listed up, are actually the the 6 days of the work week. And then what's labeled 8 is the 8th day of the month, but it's actually the 7th day of the work week. And then the next down, of course, is the 14th Sabbath. What's labeled the 15th is actually the it's actually the 7th day of the week. So it is the 15th, which is the next 7 days, and then the 22nd is the next 7 days, and the 29th is beginning the new moon, but it's also a Sabbath, but it is 7 days later. So it's curious that many people would think that it's 7, 14, 21, and 28, but because the first day of the month is not part of the work week cycle, the Sabbaths are plus 1 day.
Okay, thank you, Brother Pete. I appreciate it, and I called you and caught you off guard. Sorry.
Sorry.
So, as we all know, they had a double portion of manna on the 6th day of the week as preparation day. That means the next day was the 22nd, and there's scriptures to show that. And here's a picture of it. Also, let's see, the manna, the quail came at night, also the manna, and then the 15th. And let me go over to this one. This explains it better. So the people complained, remember, and they would have manna in the morning, and the scripture tells you, Exodus 16, here it is, 7 and 12 through 14, and the manna started on the 16th. So it started on the first day of the week, and then the 7th day of the week, number 21, because we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There was a double portion, which shows the 22nd as a Sabbath. But back to our study, we're proving the 15th was 3 months in a row, and it was a Sabbath 3 months in a row, and you can't put the 15th day of any month, you can't do a 15 in a row on a Gregorian calendar for 3 months. But we're showing a Sabbath on the 15th, 3 different months in a row. And okay, so also here, Exodus 19, we're going to show this is going to be the 3rd month. Okay, and if someone just wants to read this paragraph starting out the 3rd month, and where it shows another 15th being a Sabbath.
Exodus 19:1 also proves that the children of Israel arrived at Sinai on the 16th day of the 3rd month. Moses indicated that the children of Israel rested at Rephidim the 15th of the 3rd month. The root for Rephidim means rest, and this passage says that they arrived at the wilderness of Sin the same day of this month that they left Egypt. That is 2 months they left 2 months earlier.
So here we go. It's the 15th again, and it's rest. I guess, was there any comment about that before I go to the next page, Brother Pete? Or anybody? And the root word for Rephidim means rest. So here we are, the 3rd month. We're going to have the 15th 3 months in a row, and it shows in Exodus 19:1 that the Sabbath was on the 15th, the day of rest. So Exodus, just to recap, Exodus 12, 16, and 19 reveal the Sabbath fell on the 15th for 3 consecutive months. This is not possible if Saturday, the 7th day in an unbroken cycle, is the Sabbath. Have you ever seen a Saturday in a row like this, like January, February, and March, all on a 15? No, it is not possible. Any comments, anybody, on this? With the 3 months in a row, okay, and here shows another one the year before, on the 2019, because we did this in 2020. So a little recap while you're thinking of your comment. 3 months in a row, we had the Passover month, shows the Sabbath was the 15th, because we know the 14th is preparation day. Yeshua proved that 15th was a rest day when he was the Passover lamb. Then you have the 2nd month as the manna, showing that we had a double portion on the 21st. That puts 22nd as Sabbath, so that proves 15 is Sabbath again. Then this resting at Mount Sinai, and that puts 15th as Sabbath again. Okay, right there, we'll pause and let you guys comment or ask questions.
This Pete, and I just comment, this is an excellent, I mean, this is such a strong data point. There's no real way around this for those that want to claim a consecutive Sabbath or something, consecutive weeks.
Someone else coming on? Go ahead. Is that Rosanna?
Barb, your volume is way down to me. I don't know if it's universal.
Oh, boy. I can't fix it now. So has it been low the whole time? Okay, all right. All right, so this is a strong point of Sabbath being 3 months in a row. So we have a few more points to go through. We wanted to get through 6. Number 5 point, we're going to go and look at more evidence, and some of it is historical. Number 5, the new moon is still, and the Sabbath originally was, that's supposed to be was, depended upon the lunar cycle. Universal Jewish Encyclopedia, page 410. So the Jewish people know the Sabbath was dependent upon the lunar cycle. But something happened at the time of Constantine where they were in persecution, and they kept a Roman calendar. But anyways, this is history that the Jews know Sabbath was dependent on the lunar cycle. And no quote can be clearer than this. So anybody want to read over here? It can be anybody. Guys, don't be shy. Or it can be Brother Pete. I know you're used to hearing him read, but we have a nice group of people here today.
Everybody's being so shy, Barbie. I'll read for you. You're welcome. Each lunar month was divided into 4 parts, corresponding to the 4 phases of the moon. The first week of each month began with the new moon, so that as the lunar month was 1 or 2 days more than 4 periods of 7 days, these additional days were not reckoned at all. Universal Jewish Encyclopedia, Volume 10, page 482, article week. The Sabbath, depending in Israel's nomadic period upon the observation of the phases of the moon, could not, according to this view, be a fixed day. The JewishEncyclopedia.com. And the Hebrew Sabbathon was celebrated at intervals of 7 days, corresponding with the changes in the moon's phases. From the Encyclopedia Biblica, 1899, page 4180. And the Hebrew month is a lunar month, and the quarter of this period, 1 phase of the moon, appears to have determined the week of 7 days. Encyclopedia Biblica, page 4780. And I just wanted to say that so many people say that our Jewish brothers would never forget the Sabbath. This is what I was told when I was first discovering the lunar-solar calendar. Well, our Jewish brothers would never lose the Sabbath day, and this is why they follow the Saturday Sabbath, because our Jewish brothers wouldn't lose it. But I don't remember the verses in there, but in the Bible it tells us that they do lose the Sabbath. And then their own history shows us that if they know, they're ignoring it. So it's just kind of obvious to me now.
Yeah, thank you, Cece. I know it because I was raised Adventist, and they said, well, we know Saturday is a Sabbath. We know it because the Jews do it. And so the whole world followed the Jews, keeping a Saturday Sabbath when it's in their own encyclopedias, it's in their own documents that the Sabbath is by a lunar phase of the moon, the lunar calendar.
And I don't know, Brother Pete, do you know perhaps that the verse where it says that
I think it's in Lamentations.
Lamentations.
Right.
What? I think it's Lamentations chapter 3. I don't remember the verse.
Lamentations 4:6.
Oh, thank you.
And then there's another one in Hosea. I have them right here in my Bible, but my Bible is out of reach. It's over there. But Lamentations 4:6, I believe. But yeah, it says they're going to cause them to forget the Sabbath, So I'm going to stay up here by my mic. But yeah, and Well, they were under persecution with Constantine. If they didn't keep, he said they couldn't have anything to do with the Jewish religion, and anybody that did would be persecuted, and the holidays, and then the ones that did comply had to go to a Saturday Sabbath. Let's see, what else? So, okay, so that was a lot of quotes from the encyclopedia from the Jews, but here are a few more quotes from the Jewish people, and then we'll have some historical records from other people. But here's a whole other page for someone to read. And I'll tell you something. When I was coming into this, learning about this, and we had Brad Scott. I'll go back to that verse there. We had Brad Scott as a guest speaker, and I love Brad Scott. He's a great Hebrew teacher, and he's gone now. He's died. This was many years ago, probably. And my son went up to Brad Scott and said, my mom is starting to keep this lunar Sabbath and all that stuff. And he asked Brad Scott about it, and he says, well, they have a quote from a Jewish encyclopedia. Well, yeah, it's more than one quote, but I think he was talking about page 410. But there's many quotes in all the books of the Jews, all their encyclopedias. And I do love Brad Scott. He stayed here at my house. I've been friends with him through the years. But he says, yeah, they have a quote from the Jewish encyclopedia. Well, there's a lot more to it than that, but to me, that's quite a bit of proof. But here are a few more quotes, and then we'll go into historical records. Just start up here on the left.
I'll take it, Barb.
Anybody want? Okay, good.
In the article, Shahui calendar, ancient Shahui observance, we find confirmation of a radical change in Yahweh's calendar. The lunar calendar was, by all the original disciples of Yeshua, this original Nazarene lunar-solar calendar was supplanted by a Roman planetary week in the and calendar in 135 CE or AD, when the bishops of the circumcision, that is, legitimate Nazarene successors to Yeshua, were displaced from Jerusalem. This began a 300-year controversy concerning the true calendar and correct Sabbath. This intimate connection between the week and the month was soon dissolved. It is certain that the week soon followed a development of its own, and it became a custom without paying any regard to the days of the month, that is, the lunar month, and so that the new moon no longer coincided with the first day of the month. Encyclopedia Britannica, 1899.
So it was used by Yeshua and his disciples. They didn't use the Roman calendar. And I need to apologize. I said that verse wrong. I think it's Hosea 2:11. Oh, and Lamentations 2:6. So they're both in chapters 2. Lamentations 2:6 said he caused them to forget the Sabbath, and Hosea 2:11. And we did do a whole video about did Yah cause ever forget his Sabbaths. We did one about those two verses, Lamentations 2:6 and Hosea 2:11. So thank you for reading those quotes, Brother P. And I said I'll leave these links below. And we got one more area we're going to cover, historical evidence of the Sabbath change. And as I think Mrs. M said, it's nice that it's all in history. Anybody that really wants to research it can go and search it out in history. So the custom of celebrating the Sabbath every seventh day, irrespective of the relationship of the day to the moon's phases, led to a complete separation from the ancient view of the Sabbath. And this is just from historical record and Encyclopedia Biblica, 1899 edition, page 4179. And another one, we're going to go through a few here, but there are many, many, many. With the development of the importance of the Sabbath as a day of consecration and the emphasis laid upon the significant number 7, the week became more and more divorced from its lunar connection. And that's from the Universal Jewish Encyclopedia, which that is a historical book too. And here's another one from the encyclopedia that maybe someone can read and give me a little break here.
The calendar was originally fixed by observation and ultimately by calculation. Up to the fall of the temple, AD 70, witnesses who saw the new moon came forward and were strictly examined, and if their evidence was accepted, the month was fixed by the priest. Eventually, the authority passed to the Sanhedrin and ultimately to the Patriarchate. Gradually, observation gave place to calculation. The right to determine the calendar was reserved to the Patriarchate. The Jews of Mesopotamia, the Babylonian Jews, tried in vain to establish their own calendar, but the prerogative of Palestine was zealously defended. So long as Palestine remained a religious center, it was naturally to the homeland the diaspora looked for its calendar. Uniformity was essential, for if different parts had celebrated feasts on different days, confusion would have ensued. It was not until the 4th century AD that Babylon fixed the calendar. That's from Encyclopedia Britannica, Volume 4, article Calendar.
Thank you so much, Sally. Okay, so how is it that scholars cannot tell when the Sabbath was disassociated from the lunar cycle, while modern Saturday Sabbath keepers in general deny that the Sabbath was ever connected with the moon in the first place? That's a big question. Anybody have a comment about that? They're denying history. And you know, they just swear it's gone all the way down to creation, as I was taught. Mm-hmm. And it's in records, isn't it, Mrs. M?
Mm-hmm. They don't think to ask that question because they don't know the history.
You know, I'll tell you just a little quick story. Brother Tom, he was one of the first people that kept Lunar Sabbath that I knew, and I learned quite a bit from Tom Elisheba. And he was at one of the meetings with someone, actually Troy, had presented the Lunar Sabbath and everything and showed it all in Bible. And then Tom says, yeah, but it should be in history books. Is it in history anywhere? So then they went back and researched, and sure enough, it was all through history books. So that made the evidence more solid. Okay, well, here's another one, if someone wants to read this one from Webster.
These imported from Babylon superstitions eventually led Jewish rabbis to call Saturn Shabti, the star of the Sabbath. It was not until the 1st century of our era, when the planetary week had become an established institution, that the Jewish Sabbath seems to always to have corresponded to Saturn's Day or Saturday. Hutton Webster in his book Rested Days, page 244.
Okay, so someone mentioned this week that in Spanish, Sabbath or Saturday is always says Sabbath, but in many languages it's Sabbath for Saturday, but that's not. It was Saturn's day, and in the time of Yeshua there wasn't even a Saturn's day. Any comments there? I think that's about the last slide. Well, just about, yeah. Any comments about Saturn, the planet? There's a little bit here about it. So someone can read this about Amos. Thus, the condemnation in Amos 5:6. Remember, it talked about the Saturn, the star, Saturn or Chion. Here it is. Somebody can read over here, starting right here on the left. Amos 5:26.
I'll read. In Amos 5:26, the prophet is recorded as reminding Israel of their apostasy. Israel started worshiping Chion, a star god of their own making. In Acts 7:43, Stephen quotes Amos and is translated into Greek as saying Remphan or Remphan, the star god. Chion and Remphan are the respective Hebrew and Greek words for Saturn. The Sabbath of Scripture is based upon the lunar cycle. So Israel did indeed come to worship Saturn on his day, but at a much later date and not by divine command. I was just going to make a little statement here that I read or hear is that had the schools kept teaching history, we would have not been at this condition that people are so lost in this country. And the sad thing is that the whole world is following the U.S. and they are changing their school system. Even in the Philippines, they have adopted in the last few years the system or the school. How do you say it? The system of the school. They have changed it from even when to start the school. They have followed the U.S. now. It's very sad, and so everybody is lost, and they don't teach history because, like everybody believes, history is very important for us to remember so that we don't get lost, because history is connected to the events and especially biblical events. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Abby. Yeah, history is not being taught, and all this history was not taught to us. And even, it should have been a clue to us when we read Acts as we were growing up, when he told about him worshiping a star god. We didn't know it was Saturn, and that they changed and started worshiping Saturn Day. It's some people call it Satar, Saturn Day. It's a pagan planet, and history is not taught. Okay, so this is number 6. I guess we're going kind of long today. Number 6 of our proofs. There's 12 proofs that prove the lunar Sabbath is true. This is number 6. We're going to go over, in order to have a lunar Sabbath, you must have a lunar week. And you can see, and I'll just take a minute to show you the phases are 7 days apart. First quarter, full, last quarter, new moon, again, it's going to be dark. They were all exactly 1 week apart. So we're going to go through this a little bit. We have a little bit of history here from Philo. I think there's a couple pages of history about the week. And so we'll go through this. And do I have a volunteer to read? I'm going to have a couple pages Philo. Brother Pete, do you want to read, or Sally? There's 2 pages here of historical quotes about the week.
I'll read, Barb. I can't quite see the top corner, but I think we can get past that. Philo, the first century historian, lived from 20 BC to, I can't read that, AD. So he was alive before, during, and after the events of the New Testament. Did Philo link the Sabbath or the week with the phases of the moon? The answer is yes. In fact, the lunar week and the lunar Sabbath are the only week or Sabbath mentioned in Philo's writings. Notice that the number 7, the weeks, the Sabbath, and the moon are all linked together in Philo's writings. In allegorical interpretation, 1:4:8, it says, again, the periodical changes of the moon take place according to the number 7, that star having the greatest sympathy with the things on earth, and the changes which the moon works in the air, it perfects chiefly in accordance with its own configurations on each 7th day. At all events, all mortal things, as I have said before, drawing their more divine nature from heaven, are moved in a manner which tends to their preservation in accordance with this number 7. Accordingly, on the 7th day, Elohim caused to rest from all his works which he had made.
Go ahead, Sally, if you...
All right. Philo gives a second witness in On Mating with the preliminary studies. For it is said in the scripture, on the 10th day of this month, let each of them take a sheep according to his house, in order that from the 10th there may be consecrated to the 10th, that is to Elohim, the sacrifices which have been preserved in the soul, which is illuminated in 2 portions out of the 3, until it is entirely changed in every part and becomes a heavenly brilliancy, like a full moon at the height of its increase at the end of the 2nd week. Please let what Philo just said sink in. His readers in those days understood that the weeks were by the moon, same as in Scripture, and that at the end of the 2nd week there would be a full moon. This statement needs no interpretation and is impossible to misunderstand. Do full moons always rise on a Friday night announcing Saturday as the Sabbath? No. The weeks and Sabbath are lunar in Philo's writings. He does not link the pagan Saturday to the Hebrew Sabbath.
Well, any comments, Sally, or anybody? I think I have a comment, but I'll wait. But my comment is I love these quotes of Philo because he tells you for sure that the 2nd week was a full moon. So there's no doubt about the new moon beginning in the dark phase and building up to a full moon. And here, okay, someone else, go ahead with your comments. I think this is the last slide. Yeah, that's our last slide, so we'd like to hear from you. As you can see, it starts with the dark noon and it builds. That's what Kodesh means, to build or renew, rebuild, getting fuller, and then the quarter phase. And 1 week later, the full moon, and 1 week later, the last quarter, 1 week later. So this is how it works. And if you're new to the Lunar Sabbath, it was always a perfect 7 days between Our calendar is dented a little now. It's 29.5 days instead of 30, but it's all still there, very obvious to see in the heavens. So we would like to hear from a couple of you before we close, a comment or a question.
That's a big thing too. I'm doing the study again.
I'm happy for everybody that read today. We had so many people read and so many people comment and wonderful questions. And I hope it was a great help to everyone that watches the YouTube channel. Maybe you're new to the calendar, and maybe these are the basics. I mean, there are many reasons, but we're going to go through the first 12 that definitely prove the lunar Sabbath is true and the Gregorian Saturday is false. But I guess, good, we have a comment. Go ahead.
Barb, remember a time when we didn't know any of this? Going back through it, it always feels like I'm falling downhill. It's kind of like, how did we ever not? Well, then I remember the passage, what is it? We have inherited but lies from our fathers. And, you know, and by the way, going through this again, and even little details are reinforcing, is to remember them to even those of us who've walked in this a good while. I appreciate your going back through this. Thank you.
And that's what we do on our conference call. If any of you want to join us, we go over the calendar study every week, and it just reinforces it so that we can share it with others. And we'll have it right there in our memory. And I'm sorry I didn't say those verses right, but Lamentations 2:6, Hosea 2:11, he causes them to forget their Sabbaths. And yeah, I had no idea. I remember going outside and looking for the moon. I couldn't find it. And I thought, why is it out here? But, you know, it was in a different phase or a different time of the night. You just learn so much. And we've all learned to look up and to see that calendar in the heavens. So next week, if Yah willing, we'll go through the other 6 points that prove Saturday is not the Sabbath. And if you can't wait, if you've watched these, they're on the YouTube channel, part 1 and part 2, and we'll go through that next week. Yeah, willing. So Psalms 19:1, the heavens proclaim the glory of Jehovah. The skies display his craftsmanship. So to access more information about the calendar, the phases, there's the historical records, there's the records from the Jewish encyclopedias, there's all about Constantine, there's even information about the Sabbath being forgotten. All these things are on our website, so I hope you'll go there and search it out, lunarsabbathday.com. So again, I want to thank everyone for all the help with reading and such a wonderful conversation and wonderful fellowship. So for those of you that are here, just stay around. I'm going to close the recording.